Welcome to the Unofficial Opinion Podcast, where we discuss general topics and allow our listeners to call in to be part of the show. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another show. Today we have
Just Deidre.
And this is your boy Down South Don. And hey, we got a good topic for you guys today, and it is consequences of life choices and pretty much the excuses that we make in the process. So you have something pretty deep to read for us today, Just D. How about it?
Yeah, I got it off this. There's this writer on this website. I don't want to give him a shout out. It's just a little excerpt from what he said. He said, "Your life on a daily is a series of choices you've been making over a lifetime. You'll live with those choices for the rest of your life. And believe me, you are free to choose your actions, but you are not free from the consequences of your actions."
Nice.
That's deep. Huh?
Yeah, that's pretty deep. So, what brought this topic on is, you talk to people and they have all different types of excuses, that the reasons why they can't do certain things. And, there's always a way to overcome a lot of issues in your life. So we're going to start out with some examples. And first off, one of the main ones I hear, let's start out with children. Now, this probably is going to affect or strike a nerve with some people, and it is what it is. I mean, let's just be real. And that's what we do here on the Unofficial Opinion Podcast, is keep it real. So let's start out with children. So when you talk to a lot of women and they have a bunch of kids, whether it be 2, 3, 4, 5, whichever, and they use those kids as an excuse, is why they can't do certain things. And they blame the kids, or they resent their life, due to, well, I got all these kids. Well, if I can do this, without these kids, or if I wouldn't have done this. And that's the choice that you pretty much made, was to lay down, have these kids, even though you might not have thought about it in the heat of the moment or passion. You decided to go that route.
Yeah, it honestly, I don't think we teach our children younger the forethought. So deciding what they want for their life first, their vision for their life.
Right.
So they start just having this multitude of little choices that they've made, and then it becomes, I got 5 kids by 3 different daddies, and I'm not anywhere where I wanted to be.
Right.
You need to have a destination in mind.
But what about those that, whether they were from 3 different daddies or the same daddy?
I know, that was a trope. That was
right. And let's just say, even though, you just the kids in general, and it's something that you weren't prepared for, even though you were pretty much a kid yourself. And
there's still a choice.
Right. And it is a choice. And then you see like a lot of women that go on, Kevin Samuel's show, and they got, 4 and 5 kids, and they looking for a high value man and all this different stuff. And it's like, you got to be honest with yourself. If men, most men don't want a woman that's kind of been, this is going to be a touchy subject. But
you mean bodies?
Yeah, she got a lot of bodies on her. And then you got tag-alongs. You got crotch goblins.
Oh, here you go.
I'm just saying, and you got all these goblins with you, and it's like a man that has a value of, he making his money, he doing good in his life, then you come with all these attachments. It's like, whoa,
Well, I honestly, even if you revert back to his show, he always says, you look like you are the definition of a person that a man may want to, mess with for a couple nights, but not
that's
be
it.
the one that you want to be with.
Right.
And especially if it's that whole idea of a high value man, which kind of annoys me, but we're not going to get into that.
So let's talk about a person that I know in general. And I'm not going to say his name, but he experienced that recently. He got with a woman that she had 3 boys, I think. And she's 3 teenage boys. And he got with her, and basically, I guess the sex was probably good. They may have been friends before. And he was a guy that didn't really have any attachments, and end up having to deal with this woman and her grown ass kids.
He married her.
And he married her.
Yeah.
And then realized later, like, what the hell did I just do?
The lack of forethought.
Yeah. And out of the heat of the moment, you make those bad decisions.
Right. I think that for women, it is more important to be extremely selective with the people when you're early on, the choices that you're making. Because usually if we don't make good choices, especially in evaluating the people that we're with, it ends up creating this like a torpedo effect down the road for your life, because you don't have you do not have a destination in mind. You're not trying to get to a certain point.
Just going through life.
You're not evaluating the value of the man that you're with. And you may not even have the tools yet to make those decisions.
Yeah. And I see a lot of people that make those decisions to have children. They think, oh, well, I'm going to get this man the best of me, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm 18, 19, 20 years old, and you decide to take this route, and you're not thinking about the rest of your life and what it's going to be like.
Right.
And when those opportunities approach you later on in life, whether it be travel, job opportunities, or whatever, you're limited immediately.
Yep.
And yes, some women do pursue careers after they have children, and some women are strong like that. They make do, but that doesn't happen for everybody.
It doesn't. Sometimes I get stuck.
Right.
Feeling stuck is like the worst feeling. I think that, and everyone probably goes through it at some time in their lives, but I think the most important thing, I always say for the woman, is understanding that the man that you're marrying or the man that you're deciding to have children with and build a family with, that is who he is. He may not change. And that's what a lot of women bet on is the man. Everyone grows, but you don't know what direction they're going to grow in. So you have to, for everybody getting into a relationship, you have to take the person that you're with at face value. This is who I'm with. I'm accepting them, flaws and all. You're not looking at potential. No, there probably is potential there, but you can't quantify that when you're, in the moment.
Right.
You don't know what that's going to be, or if it's even gonna, become anything.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah.
That's my advice.
Right. We'll see it. So, and let's move on to another topic. So let's talk about those that choose to do crime.
Yeah.
Now,
those are choices.
Yeah, those that choose to, go out and do crime, which you see a lot of young guys going out, pulling stunts, doing crime, selling drugs, whatever it may be. And you think about when you decide to take this route, that the consequence that you have to live with. Now, let's say, for instance, you're not thinking of the things that may affect you in the long run. Like, okay, let's say you do get caught and you end up having to go through the, prison system or the penal system, and you end up, I don't know why they call it the penal system. That sounds like yeah.
I never liked that either.
But anyway, so yeah.
Penalty.
Yeah. Basically. And you go through this process, and then once you get out, then you have, this X on your back. So it limits you from jobs, it limits you from your rights, which is probably one of the biggest things. You cut your rights pretty much to non-existent when until you get back in society. And I guess for most states, it's usually 5 to 10 years after, then you do regain some of your rights back.
It didn't used to be so bad back in the day, but because of how data transfers and moves in society,
right,
they can pull up everything about you.
Yeah. And anything, any place that you want to go. So let's say now you got to get back out. Say you left a kid behind when you decided to go in, and now all of a sudden you got, this kid to take care of. Maybe you're not in a relationship, but let's say you do find a relationship. So now you got to provide for your family, and you got this X on your back. So you are limited to certain jobs because most of the jobs require you to be 5, 10 years after the fact. So you have
some of them don't even accept
some
you
of them
at
won't
all.
accept you at all. So you have to, that 5-year period, a 10-year period. What are you going to do in that process after the fact? You have to wait that entire time. So you taking odd and end jobs, dishwasher, car washer, whatever the hell it may be, just to, make ends meet. Or you end up in the category of recidivism, and you end up having to go back
because you had to provide.
Right.
And you go through the other means,
and
which
you got desperate.
is also a choice.
Right.
I mean,
and it's like the thing, if you get desperate, so you end up making bad choices again, and then you're back. And of course, that's the trap that they like to set in order to keep you, in the system.
Get that free labor, that free slavery.
Right. And that is just modern day slavery.
Yeah, modern day slavery.
That's all it is. So you have that choice where, okay, I'm going to make that decision or not. And of course, the best thing is not to. But if you do, then you have to, not make that excuse like, I can't do anything. I got this X on my back. You have to make the choice to figure out, what do I have to do to get out of this situation?
Yeah.
And not use it as an excuse. There are a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of programs that are out there to kind of get you by until you get to that point to where you can, move out of that 5-year period or whatever for someone to actually give you a decent job. So until you do,
it almost is for someone getting out, I can imagine it almost feels impossible, to make a living wage, and it's more than a living wage, because especially if you have a family coming out, it's really difficult. And I think that's where entrepreneurship has to happen. But you have to have a support system when you get out too. And a lot of people don't have that.
Right.
So obviously the system there's no fair in that. And I think that the main thing is just not trying to avoid avoidance, trying to avoid not doing that in the first place, not going down that route. I know it's difficult growing up in certain areas not to fall into that trap, but
peer pressure, all
of that. And if you can just avoid it, I know some cases, obviously you get set up. I mean, that's not most, I gotta say, most people did something that got them caught up.
Oh yeah.
But to know the laws in your area, to not fall victim to that, and to get away from that criminal element as quickly as you can, and away from those type of people as quickly as you can,
right,
is the best choice.
And it boils down to you just, once you become supposedly a man and you make certain decisions, and if you're not a man and you make those wrong decisions, you're going to end up becoming a man one way or another. You're going through that process.
Yeah.
But once you go through the system, you grow up fast and you come to realization like, I messed up. And either you come out a better man or you don't. You become worse. It's a flip-flop situation. So, it just goes back to say, make the right decisions and just think about the consequences behind it, because you're going to lose a lot and it's going to change your life dramatically.
And I just want to say one more thing. Just always go back to your vision. What do you really want for your life?
Right.
Because that is definitely going to negate that.
Yeah, that's true. So let's talk about, high school. So those that choose to drop out of high school, that's another choice. Now, even though there's alternatives, of course, like with your GED, or you can still go to college, and it's a decision that most people make. And honestly, I don't think this one really affects you.
I don't think so.
Like it used to.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I have a cousin back in the probably mid 90s. She went to, she dropped out, but she dropped out because she felt like she was wasting her time. Her last year was a waste of time. And a lot of times in high school, you feel that way because you have a whole lot of electives, not really credit bearing, like moving you towards your diploma type of classes. I had so many electives. I had 2 main classes. And so she dropped out to move forward in her life. So she decided to go get her GED, take the test, and then start college that year.
And it's so much easier.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I get it, but it can affect you if that's where you stay. If you choose not to get the GED and you choose to have a dropout on your resume.
Yeah.
That'll keep you from getting a lot.
It does. Yeah. And you just have to make that choice to move on. And a lot of women, end up going to get their GED because they get pregnant in high school, which goes back to that first choice that we talked about. And you decide to have children at 15, 16, 17 or whatever, which happens quite often, especially in certain communities. But
Your mind is not ready for
Yeah, you're definitely not ready. So a lot of girls, take that and say, all right, well, I'm going to continue my education. And good thing is they at least decided to do that. Some girls don't. So that's a choice. And like I said, once again, the consequence behind that is that you'll probably be, 2-3 kids, no education, and it makes it that much harder for you to provide for your kids. Same thing with the fathers, no different. Continue education, think about the consequence. Moving on. So let's just talk about the main one that I wanted to talk about was that women or men that choose to stay in a bad relationship. So
there's so many parts to this.
Yeah, it is, and we're gonna kind of staying, on the skim of the subject. Staying in a bad relationship, when you know that person is probably not right for you, and you're staying there for convenience, that's an issue for one, or from something that you think is love. And that's another podcast. And actually, we're gonna make sure you stay tuned because the next podcast will be about jealousy is not love. So stay tuned for that. But staying in this relationship, when you know it's an issue, it's not heading anywhere. When you're fighting constantly, especially if you're young, you got tons of options.
Yeah,
it's not the end of the world.
And can I say, there are things that I disagree with that guy Kevin Samuels about, but this is very important to me. This part I do agree with him. Right. Is that with being a young woman, this is your valuable time in your life to make choices for a relationship, for a partner that is hopefully going to be forever for you, to build that family. And when you make choices out of just, frivolous things, you have to have a foundation of certain things that you want in a partner before you make those big life-changing things. Because what happens is you end up breaking up families, children get affected by it. And I think that's extremely important. And I do agree with him on that. It's something that men should, especially young men, shouldn't really be looking for it in the beginning.
Yeah. And the main thing is, at a certain age, just have fun. If you're under 25, you should be just out having fun and enjoying your life because, it comes by fast and you're not even established. You don't even know who you are yet as a man until you in your 30s, to be honest with you. So you should be out having fun. And I can only speak from a man's perspective, but even still with women, you shouldn't be bothered having kids at that age because you're probably going to regret it. And you don't want these attachments. Go out, live your life, live free, have fun, and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
That way you don't have any excuses, growing up thinking man, if I'd have done this, if I wouldn't have put myself in this position, because especially from a man's standpoint, you're basically, okay, you got anchors now. You got 2-3 kids, and that's why you see a lot of men end up leaving and the mother because you wasn't ready. Then you got your kids. You done left your kids behind because you wasn't ready. You end up on child support. And that's probably the worst because that's one of the anchors you will not shake.
No.
They will be on your ass.
Honestly, you shouldn't. Those are your responsibilities.
Yeah, they are your responsibility.
It's different if you didn't want to have the kids and then
she had them anyway.
Yeah, that's
but that's also her choice because
made,
but it's not just her choice she made. You laid down with that woman. You knew it was a possibility. That goes back to saying, man, just focus on your life, protect yourself, and protect her as well. If your pull-out game weak, don't do it.
You know what? I think that I think it just boils down for women and men knowing your value.
Right.
Or men knowing your future value of what,
your
potential. Because what you want when you're 19 isn't probably not going to be what you want when you're 35.
Exactly. So. And think about it. Okay, if you live a life that you can be 30 or 35, you don't have no kids, you don't have no attachments, you've lived and enjoyed your life to the fullest, then you'll probably think, you know what, a family would be kind of cool right now.
Is that how it goes?
Yeah. I mean, and that's really kind of the way it should have been for a lot of people because they weren't ready and they put themselves in a predicament where it's like you still on the hunt, especially for men. If you still on the hunt and you still out on the prowl, you 30, 40 years old, that's not a good look. I mean, you got dudes that are 60, 70, still out on the prowl, looking for something. And that's because they didn't go out and live their life to the fullest like they should have.
Or no, maybe they just get into a pattern.
But eventually you get burnt out on that. Everybody gets burnt out. That's just like a prostitute going through her ages to where she just prostitute all her life. She's going to get to a point to where she's burnt out. It gets old. You get tired of just spending money on women or men. You get tired of just dating. It gets old.
I think it gets old. I think it gets old earlier than that. I just think you don't find anything that's what you want, around the time. Like it's not easy. I know it's hard out there for people to find their match. And for women, honestly, when you're younger, you have a larger pool of choices. So think about that. Think about that when you're, evaluating the guys in your 20s.
Right. Yeah. Well, you don't know what you're going to find. I think that's why a lot of women seek older men because they don't like the games that the younger guys are playing and they just decide to say,
it's smart too, but some younger women think older is 30. Yeah. If you're 20, older is 30, but not necessarily. Sometimes you need to be looking for a 40-year-old ready to settle down, ready to have some kids. If that's what you want, if you want a family, then yeah, you might want to be looking at that. Just FYI.
Yeah. All right. So, and one of the excuses, the last excuse that we're going to run with that I hear a lot is people say, oh, I'm from the hood, I'm from the ghetto. That's not really an excuse because that's something that you can change when you get yourself on your feet to move on.
That's a circumstance that can change.
Yeah, and that's just a circumstance. And you see people rise from the ashes all the time. So that's not an excuse. Stop using, I'm just the old, or another one I hear, I'm just the old country boy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just, I'm from the ghetto, man. I don't know this or this and that. Not an excuse.
They got country boys who are heads of companies. They still country. But.
So the only thing I can say is get on top of your shit, stop making excuses, and live life to the fullest. Any last words?
Just know your value, figure out what your vision is for your life, and execute. And don't let other people sway you from those goals because that is what's going to make you create those, issues, those choices.
Exactly. And always keep in mind, there's a consequence to everything you do. Think about your future.
Yeah.
Down South Done with Unofficial Opinion Podcast. We out.
Bye.